As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date. News Talk KVNU 102 FM 610 AM. Also on the new KVNU mobile app.
KVNU News Time is 5:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by U&I Furniture. A report last Thursday from the Utah Department of Health and Human Services indicates Utah's 7-day average COVID-19 count has grown to nearly 188 cases, a 28% increase over the previous week. At the same time, the state health department said to avoid winter respiratory infections, vaccines against COVID-19, flu, and RSV will be available soon, likely this week. State epidemiologist Leisha Nolan said it's important that people at risk of getting severely ill from respiratory illnesses get vaccinated. She said these include really young children, pregnant women, adults age 65 and older, and people who are immunocompromised. To determine which vaccines are right for them, Utahns are encouraged to talk to their healthcare provider or pharmacist. KVNU News Time is 5:04. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy, a chance of rain showers and a slight chance of thunderstorms this evening, then a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms after midnight, low in the mid-40s. On Wednesday, slight chance of showers in the morning, then a chance of showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Partly cloudy skies. It will be cooler on Wednesday, high around 70. It's been to 78. It's 77 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Have you been in an accident that wasn't your fault? Worried about how to pay the bills and take care of your family? You deserve an advocate. Chat online at utahadvocates.com or call 801-355-5550.
U&I Furniture has always been here to give you great value for your money. When it comes to home furnishings, it really is always a better buy at U&I. And right now, U&I is closing out last year's model mattresses. Closeouts on new models and displays, too. Memory foam, innerspring, and hybrids from a number of different name brand manufacturers. And ask U&I to show you this popular copper-infused mattress that sleeps cooler. And did you know U&I has a good selection of sheets and mattress protectors, too? U&I Furniture, over 90 years in downtown Logan. There's always a better buy at U&I.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. It's no secret Utah's Mighty Five national parks deliver stunning views and memorable experiences for everyone. For one day only, you'll be able to explore all their glory for free. The fee-free day is right around the corner, happening this Saturday, September 23rd. Besides being the first official day of autumn, Saturday is also National Public Lands Day. The day celebrates connections between people and nature and inspires environmental stewardship and encourages use of open space for education, recreation, and health benefits. Overall, the day is meant to recognize the importance of public land in communities and celebrate recreators who take advantage of the outdoors. Saturday's fee-free day means entrance fees will be waived, but does not cover amenity or user fees for camping, boat launches, transportation, special tours, and other activities within the park. Only national parks qualify for the free day, meaning you can check out Zion, Arches, Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands, and Capitol Reef without paying a penny. Be warned, though, usually fee-free days mean crowds will flock to the parks. If you can't make it out this Saturday, there's one more free National Park Day happening in 2023. The next and final free day is on November 11th, Veterans Day. And the hearing in the Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt criminal case that was scheduled to take place yesterday has been postponed. Officials of Utah State Court cited additional time needed to review copious amounts of discovery as the reason for the delay. The court date initially scheduled for 11 a.m. today was postponed after attorneys filed a stipulated motion to continue the review hearing after October 5th. It was previously confirmed that Judge John Walton of the 5th District Court in St. George would discuss whether the two women would be allowed out on bail in this hearing. Frankie and Hildebrandt were arrested August 31st on aggravated child abuse charges after two of Frankie's children were found malnourished with lacerations from being duct taped and tied up. KVNU News Time is 5:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
It all happens here. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
September is National Honey Month, and to celebrate, Cox Honeyland has local Cache Valley honey on sale. 12 pounds is $40, or 24 pounds is $77. Bring in your own jar. It's only $3.50 per pound, and it's also time for a summer clearance sale at Cox Honeyland. Save 50% off all summer merchandise, including the spinners. Their fun gift store is full of decor, treats, and more. That's Cox Honeyland and Gifts, 78 South, Highway 89, Logan.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Looking for ways to serve but don't know where to begin? Go to justserve.org, a free site to help those who want to serve find opportunities nearby. Just Serve has teamed up with organizations nationwide. Go to justserve.org and type in your city, and you'll see a list of service opportunities. Sign up on Just Serve to receive emails letting you know about new projects. Just Serve is fast, free, and easy. JustServe.org is provided as a service by The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Feels like Tuesday. Tuesday has no feel.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. It is honestly unbelievable. We're going to be talking about this again here in hour two of today's show. Let me back up. Thanks again to Shelly Giddens for stopping by. We spent hour one with her. She listed the dates there. We've had a few people ask. I posted a link to the calendar from the school district on these various public meetings over the proposed bond. And also keep an eye out at CashValleyDaily.com. We'll have a story up there soon. Yeah, you'll have plenty of opportunity in October and November to get out to public meetings, ask questions, and learn more. And again, as Shelley and I said many times, neither one of us here pointing the finger at the school district or saying they're trying to dupe us. They don't need to do this. Personally, I think that a proposed bond to build middle schools because of growth is probably one of the most believable things I've seen proposed by a governing agency or public entity of any kind, because we know things are growing. We know people in Cache Valley are having a lot of kids. We know that we have to educate them, and we know that requires things like paying teachers and having schools. So I would not be surprised at all that this is necessary. But as Shelley said, we should be able to see a bit more about the accounting. The accountability and transparency is decent here in Utah when it comes to school district spending, but it's far from line by line checkbook accounting, or transparency as they call it, checkbook transparency. And so, I think people would feel a lot better about these bonds, which are not going away anytime soon as we grow and grow and grow. But people would feel better if they could look at their district or even their specific school and say, here's the money they got, both from the state and through federal granting and more, and here's where it went. Here's what they spent it on. Now, where that could become problematic, I'm sure, is, we get those callers here sometimes, but everyone has their thing that they think is dumb and a waste of money. Why are we spending on this? Well, you might not. We also get those callers sometimes that, I don't have kids in the school. Why should I keep paying for it? Well, that's a pretty narrow-minded way to look at things, because we all benefit from a decent education system, and the most obvious way we all benefit is no business wants to be located in your state if your education system is bad. If your graduation rates are low, if your testing and math and literacy scores are low, no business wants to be located in your state because they don't have a qualified workforce to depend on. And so they don't come to your state, or they leave your state. And there are some states that are learning that lesson for a decade plus now. Education is kind of important, whether you have kids in the system or not. That said, again, I think a lot of times opposition to bonding comes from people being able to easily say, well, there's waste. They could just cut the budget. The thing is, we don't know. One thing I do know, administrative costs for schools in Utah are lower than the national average, and here in Cache Valley, lower than the average of the state. That's all good. But if you ask the question, could administrative costs be even lower, despite that good news that they're lower than the average, that's great. But could they be even lower than that? A lot of times that question will be met with a shrug. Don't know. Well, we should know, and taxpayers should be able to know that. And checkbook level accounting or transparency is the only way we'll get there. So, again, if you want to know more, we'll keep you posted on the dates for these public hearings on the bond, etc. And stay tuned. I'm sure this is not the last time we've talked about it. But, again, a quick announcement for Logan residents as well. This was just finalized yesterday, talking actually during the show with planners at the city. And our good friend Teresa Harris there letting us know that it was approved for the date and time that was best for us. Anyway, long story short, a Meet the Candidates night will take place Wednesday, October 18th at 6 p.m. at Logan City Hall. We will be broadcasting this event live here on KVNU. And, of course, it is an in-person event at City Hall. You'll have an opportunity to submit questions that night via little 3x5 cards. We'll have a stack of those in various places throughout City Hall. You can write your questions down and actually walk up and hand them right to me at the podium. I'll be there annoying the candidates with questions, and that's my job during an event like this. But also for our listeners, you can submit your questions in advance. I will be grouping like questions together. So if you don't hear your specific question asked, that doesn't mean we didn't see it. But I'll be grouping like questions together. If questions are about a similar topic or theme, group them all together into one question so that there's not a lot of repetition throughout the night, because this is only going to be about an hour-long event followed by a town hall for those in attendance to ask questions themselves afterwards. So, a Q&A afterwards for those in the audience to ask questions or meet the candidates. So again, Meet the Candidates night, 6 p.m., Logan City Hall, October 18th. That's a Wednesday. If you can't make it in person, be tuned in to KVNU that evening, and we'll broadcast it live here as well at 6 p.m., right as our show wraps, basically. So, all right, with that in mind, as I started the hour and then decided I was jumping into it too quick, I'm pretty emotional about this one. I'm angry about this story, because I was a big fan of Operation Underground Railroad, and I thought the level of awareness they raised around the issue of human trafficking was amazing over the last decade plus. They brought this to as an organization. They brought this to the spotlight in a way that many who had tried before hadn't been able to do. I think that is so important. And unfortunately, and I think most of the blame here rests on the person who ironically founded Operation Underground Railroad, Tim Ballard. But it looks like the wheels have come off the railroad train. unfortunately, and it is absolutely disappointing to see. So to bring you up to speed, what we discussed yesterday on the show, this all played out over the weekend, roughly here in Utah. And the short version is there was a Vice News story on a statement from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It caught a lot of Utahns, including state lawmakers, by surprise, because Vice News had a statement from the church that had not been sent out by the church or posted to their website yet. Fast forward a bit, it has been confirmed by multiple media organizations, other spokespeople for the church, and here's the best confirmation you can get. The statement was legit. The editor of the Deseret News, the church-owned newspaper, Hal Boyd, said, no, it is legit. It was just not sent out publicly, possibly out of respect for the person they were condemning in the statement, which is Tim Ballard. But maybe they just were kind of hoping it would stay quiet. I don't know. People can only speculate on that front. But either way, thus the confusion. People spent a lot of Friday saying, is this real? When the church sends out a statement, it's usually emailed around to the media. It's usually posted on their website. None of that happened. But again, it has been confirmed this is an official statement from the church, and too long didn't read. It basically condemns Tim Ballard for trading on his friendship for personal benefit with Elder M. Russell Ballard, president of the church, acting president of the church, and accuses in the statement from the church Tim Ballard of acting without. It basically accuses him of doing some wrong things without getting specific. And in fact, it does not get specific at all. It just says, I'm struggling to find, I have the other story open here, so I'm struggling quickly to find the actual phrasing. I'll find it. But anyway, so it's been confirmed this was a statement from the church. Ballard responded. He was in Boston for some reason, and he went out to a statue with a bunch of friends and filmed a 23-minute rambling response video where he basically says, I don't believe that this statement actually came from my church. I don't think they would do this. Again, even the editor of the Deseret News has said he made calls to the church, and they said, yes, we did write that statement condemning Ballard. Then there was a story from Vice, again, saying that they were able to disclose at this point, and we found out why today. Fast forward to that, the reason Vice News has this information is they finally got the public records they requested a couple of years ago from the investigation into Operation Underground Railroad by Troy Rollins, Davis County District Attorney's Office. Investigators concluded that investigation without filing charges. This was stemmed from allegations of money laundering and improper accounting, a bunch of accusations. The investigation concluded without charges, which is not the same as concluding that a person being investigated is innocent. It's basically the Davis County District Attorney's Office saying, we didn't have enough to charge anybody, so we're not going to. That was a couple of years ago, and at that time, Vice News, the Salt Lake Tribune, Deseret News, KUTV, Fox 13 News, it goes on and on, all filed public records requests wanting to see the documents from that investigation. And the reason Vice, we know today, finally, the reason Vice had all this information about Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad to write these stories over the last few days is that they got the public records last week. It took that long, but they got them. Well, that was confirmed today by Vice News themselves in a third story. So the first story, again, is on the statement from the LDS Church condemning Tim Ballard, accusing him of trading on M. Russell Ballard's name, using Elder Ballard's name for personal benefit and profit, the statement says, and then also says Ballard had been a part of immoral conduct, basically. Again, no details, just that, in the church's statement. Vice News then reports the next day that Ballard has been accused by 7, at least, so far, women, both from inside of Operation Underground Rescue and also volunteers on various Operation Underground Rescue missions, of sexual misconduct, including improper touching, coercing them into sharing his bed, showering with him. All of this, Ballard, the accusers say, did under the guise that they had to convincingly appear to be his wife to the traffickers they were going to meet. One woman, though, said there were never any traffickers we met. In fact, one woman in her accusation said, I felt like this was just kind of a weekend fantasy for him. I pretended to be his wife. We shared a bed. We showered together. There was inappropriate touching. He said this was all part of getting into the mindset of a married couple. And then he said that the mission had been canceled and I should just go home. Some odd stuff, to say the least. Today, another bombshell of sorts from Vice News, again from public records gained through the request to the Davis County Attorney's Office, who conducted this investigation of OUR 2 years ago, and Ballard. Sound of Freedom producer. Sound of Freedom was the movie this summer based on Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad, a fictionalized version of his story. Very controversial because a lot of his story has been challenged, including by some of his former CIA officer pals who have said he has made up a lot of his origin story and how he got into this. But the news today from Vice News, Sound of Freedom producer, who is a well-known person here in Utah, to be honest with you, in political circles at least, Paul Hutchinson. He served as the finance chair for Attorney General Sean Reyes, also a very vocal over the years Tim Ballard and AUR supporter, including appearing in the Abolitionist movie and going with them on a mission to Colombia where he posed as Tim Ballard's bodyguard. That's included in the movie. If you haven't seen that, you still can. Sound of Freedom, though, released this summer by Angel Studios, a Utah-based filmmaking company. The producer of that film also served as finance chair for Attorney General Sean Reyes during his re-election campaign last go-around. Also served on Mike Lee's re-election committee and is well-known in Utah GOP circles, at least. I've met the guy a few times just through the radio show. He was also executive producer of Sound of Freedom, again, a film focused on heavily fictionalized exploits of Tim Ballard and the founding of Operation Underground Railroad. Public records gained by Vice News from the Davis County investigation that, again, concluded without charges a couple of years ago, show that Paul Hutchinson, he improperly touched minors during a couple of Operation Underground Railroad missions. Those are the allegations. That he touched the naked breasts of an underage trafficking victim during a 2016 undercover operation. And the story goes on. There are a couple of other incidents. From the public records, Vice News reports that that Hutchinson knew what he'd done on these missions was probably wrong, and they had documents showing that after these incidents occurred, he went back to Operation Underground Railroad people and said, basically, do you think I'm going to get in trouble? This is on video, by the way. And also at one point claims that when he goes to one of the Operation Underground Railroad mission commanders, as they call themselves, he said he told them that one of the traffickers actually put his hands on this 16-year-old girl's naked breasts, and he goes to his commander and says, am I going to get in trouble for this? And the person leading the mission, whose last name is Osborne, says, is it clear in the video they pulled your hand to her breasts? Paul says, I don't know if it is. Next to that, one of the investigators in the Davis County Attorney's Office had written the word lie. And then underneath that, Paul clearly puts both hands on her body voluntarily. So to be clear, this is a person on a rescue mission for young girls who have been tricked or enslaved into this human trafficking underworld. And there he is with Operation Underground Railroad abusing them, taking advantage of them. This is the end of Operation Underground Railroad. The story also details that people still currently involved with OUR knew about this and believed they told, Davis County investigators said they believed that Operation Underground Railroad thought they had effectively scrubbed this video from existence, but it was found on a hard drive turned over to investigators when the investigation began. What a sad series of events. I don't know what to say other than that. I know that a lot of people, including the State Attorney General Sean Reyes, at this point are probably regretting tying themselves so closely to Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad. No matter how many times I say the word allegations again and again, what we do know already, I think, is enough for public opinion to have solidified around this. Again, just a sad series of events for something that was meant to do so much good. To see it melt down like this because of Tim Ballard and allegedly, and a handful of other men allegedly, who apparently had other things more important to them than what the work they were supposedly doing was all about. Yeah. Check it out. I've posted a link to the Vice story on our Facebook page. I've skimmed the highlights. A lot of it I can't read here on the radio or would choose not to here in Cache Valley. Again, Vice News with a third investigative report today. This one on the public records they received last week from the Davis County Attorney's Office. It took them 2 years to get these records after that investigation of Operation Underground Railroad concluded without charges. The documents obtained by Vice, though, are, to be blunt, pretty damning when it comes to Tim Ballard, Paul Hutchinson, and some others involved with Operation Underground Railroad. 753-5868. How do you feel about all this? I know it's rocked a lot of people trying to figure out how to process this because this has been such a big thing here in Utah for almost 10 years now. What say you? 753-5868. We'll be back right after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:30. Should a federal government shutdown occur at the end of the month, Utah's national parks will remain open, thanks to the Utah legislature. The state will fund the 5 national parks, allowing them to remain open and fully operational should elected officials in Washington fail to pass measures to keep the government open past September 30th. Utah House Speaker Brad Wilson and Senate President J. Stewart Adams made the announcement Monday, which will come as a great relief for those whose livelihoods orbit the park. House Speaker Wilson said they will support rural Utah and the towns around national parks that depend on a tremendous amount of economy and tourism. While the national park system has usually remained open during recent government shutdowns, many ranger-led programs and resources are not available. However, during the most recent shutdown in 2019, the Utah State Legislature funded the parks in a similar way planned for later this fall. The attorney for the family of Eric Richin says he's shocked over a newly discovered letter from Corey Richins written while she was incarcerated in a Summit County jail cell awaiting trial for the murder of her husband. Prosecutors say the letter shows wrongdoing and witness tampering. Family spokesperson attorney Greg Skordas said what it looks like is an attempt to have someone make up a story for a trial. Corey, who wrote a book about grief after Eric's death, is accused of poisoning her husband with fentanyl. The 6-page handwritten note written by Corey to her mother, Lisa Darden, seemingly instructs her to have Ronald Darden, Corey's brother, to falsely testify that Eric received drugs and pills from Mexico, causing his death. Alleged instructions in the note say things like, tell him I need him to do this, bring me home, and tell them to say Eric always wanted Corey to go down for him. The letter was found in a routine sweep of her cell by the sheriff's office and made public by Summit County Attorney's Office as evidence of alleged wrongdoing and possible witness tampering. Its letter, Skordas claims, could probably have been sealed, but reveals some serious issues. He said you can't coach a witness or tell a witness what to say. That is classic witness tampering. A trial date has yet to be set, as evidence in the case, said to be over 1 million pages, is still being reviewed. But Skordas believes this new development involving the letter has been troubling. KVNU News Time is 5:33.
The president of the UAW says union members at more plants could walk off the job if there's no major progress in talks with big three automakers by the end of the week. Tanya Sullivan, a Ford employee, says the 40% wage increase they want makes up for 12 years without a raise.
Divide that by 12. That's only like 3.5% raise for a whole year.
The big three says that's unrealistic, though, as the industry makes an expensive transition from gas-powered to electric vehicles. Congress has until the end of next week to approve a new federal budget, but a small group of far-right Republicans is holding up necessary legislation.
We'll see what the House does and act accordingly.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says past shutdowns have hurt his party. House Republicans plan to hold their first hearing next Thursday in the impeachment inquiry to President Biden. The Department of Homeland Security rolling out a plan to prevent opioids from coming into the U.S. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
KVNU weather for tonight. Chance of rain showers and a slight chance of thunderstorms this evening. Then a slight chance of showers and storms after midnight, low in the mid-40s. And then tomorrow, chance of showers and thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon. Slight chance in the morning, partly sunny. It will be cooler tomorrow. High temperature around 70. It's been to 78. It's 77 right now at KVNU. And fall is here, but those pesky weeds are still popping up all over your lawn. Call Logan Extermination to be ready for winter. Call 435-752-8450. Get more news at CacheValleyDaily.com.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology cares about you and your hearing. Dr. Paul Danes has always called Cache Valley home and cares about its people. And Dr. Danes offers state-of-the-art equipment, allowing him to provide the best service and care possible when it comes to your hearing. So if your hearing isn't what it used to be, give Dr. Danes a call at 753-HEAR or visit CacheValleyHearing.com to see what they can do for you.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Glenn Beck.
So now Clayton Kershaw, 3-time Cy Young Award winner, said, quote, I don't agree with making fun of other people's religion. Instead of making a statement or condemning, we're going to have a Christian Faith Day. That's our response. We felt like that was the best decision. It has nothing to do with the LGBTQ community or pride or anything like that. This is simply a group that was making fun of a religion that I don't agree with.
The Glenn Beck Program.
Sunday afternoons from 2 to 5 on News Talk KVNU.
I think it's just vapor.
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as one pack of cigarettes.
My kid
knows it's dangerous. 5.4 million American kids vape, and most think it's harmless. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. That's talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, asking listeners how they feel about this string of stories since late last week about Tim Ballard, Operation Underground Railroad, a statement from the church condemning Ballard for among other things, trading on Elder M. Russell Ballard's name. That is actually from the church's statement. Just a mind-blowing series of events that in the end, I'm predicting means the end of Operation Underground Railroad and Tim Ballard's name and reputation, deservedly, I think. But what? Yeah. Callers on the line, we'll jump right to them. First up, in fact, a voice you all might recognize, our good friend Tom Grover on the line. Tom, hello. How goes things?
Thanks for taking my call. Pretty wild turn of events.
To say the least,
unimaginable. Yeah, and there have been people that have been questioning him about their tactics for years, but that's totally different than this past week, which is on a whole different level. And there's just so many people here that have been betrayed. First and foremost are the victims of sexual misconduct themselves. But also, you look at how people are reacting to this, and people are having a hard time accepting that it's true. Even now, if you get on Facebook or any social media, you'll see a lot of people who, to them, it's an open question whether the church actually publicly rebuked Tim Ballard. And I think that's probably because so many people with pure hearts invested their heart, their money, their time into this effort. And all those people have been betrayed. And so it's sort of understandable, at least in the immediate aftermath, why so many people are in a sense of denial about the gravity of this situation. And I just, that to betray that many people that have that pure of an intent is just, can't even put into words the scale of that harm.
Sure.
And it's just, it's ugly.
That is, it to me, it does border, and Tom, you know me well enough to know I nothing surprises me these days. This one did, though. I know, as you said, people have had questions for a long time about their tactics or how much of the story was often true or embellished. But the one thing that I always fell back on confidently was, what? In a way, I kind of don't care, because they have raised awareness on this so much, and brought this so much to the forefront of people's minds here in Utah, but around the world, that they're doing good work. And then these stories come out, and you just can't feel that way anymore. And it angers me because this is what Operation Underground Railroad was supposed to be all about. Was a really important thing, right?
Yeah, very. And that's why people got behind them. So many people in Utah and in the LDS community around the country and beyond. It was bigger than that. It wasn't obviously an explicitly LDS thing, but it was big in the LDS community. And all those people that got behind it, they all had the best of intentions and trust. And
Sure.
And it's been betrayed.
This is, and for listeners out there, again, I've linked to all of this that Tom and I are discussing here on our Facebook page if you want it, because there are so many stories. And as you said, Tom, I saw this play out too. People didn't really, a lot of the speculation around the church's statement, for example, was, people didn't want to believe that the story itself that the statement implied was true, because basically here's a statement from, saying that Ballard betrayed his friendship with President M. Russell Ballard, and an unauthorized use of President Ballard's name for Tim Ballard's personal advantage, and activity regarded as morally unacceptable. That's the exact sentence there. And I think it was easier for a lot of people to believe that this statement was not true than, or not real, I guess, that it didn't really come from the church itself, than it was to believe what the statement implied. And now, and then that confirmation came. I think it was Hal, the editor of the Deseret News, which, by the way, I mean, if there's ever an authority, right, on whether a statement is legit, it's the editor of the Deseret News saying, no, I called, and that is a legit statement. They did put that out. At that point, I think the reality set in. How do you feel about that? I've heard some people saying that the church spokespeople should have handled this differently. I I don't know. What did they expect? A press conference or?
Well, the church did depart a little bit from their normal practice here because the statement isn't on their PR website, and it's not normal for the church to publicly rebuke a specific individual like that.
Sure.
But the gravity of the situation forced their hand. And that, the fact that people question it or deny it just shows how invested they were in this and how hard it is to come to terms with what Tim Ballard's done. And I'll also say that video that Tim Ballard made from Boston where he denied that the church had done it, that was in extraordinary bad faith. So this is a guy who's already engaged in egregious misconduct and is aggravating it by denying the authenticity of something that has been confirmed by the Deseret News, by the Salt Lake Tribune, by Channel 13 in Salt Lake, and a number of other outlets. There's no question that this statement came from the church. And, the church has the right to do their PR however they want to do it. They're not under any moral or ethical obligation to post it to their PR website. But it is a departure from what they normally do. That's not normal.
That makes sense. Yeah, and that seemed to be where a lot of the confusion I was seeing online, people saying, look, I can't find this at the church's website where they always are. This can't be real. But, yeah, it was confirmed by the end of the day by multiple media organizations and even the name of the spokesperson who officially hit send on the email was made public. Tom, let me ask you this. I know you know Utah, you know Operation Underground Railroad, you know our Attorney General's ties to Tim Ballard and even kind of hinting at Tim Ballard making a Senate run announcement a few days before this whole story broke, Sean Reyes did, and how invested people here in Utah are in the work of Operation Underground Railroad over the years. Where do you think things go from here? Because I'm predicting at very least a name change, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is the end of Operation Underground Railroad as an organization.
Well, I couldn't tell you. To me, the answer to that would be obvious in a pre-2016 world, but we live in a world now where shame and scandal and misconduct don't seem to have an impact on people and institutions like they used to.
Sure.
Somebody does something totally wrong, and they run for office, and they have tremendous support doing it. And that's the era and the time we live in. So who knows what this actually does to Tim Ballard? I mean, I heard you saying earlier it's the end of his name. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe this guy has such a loyal following that he could shoot somebody in broad daylight on South Temple and not lose any of his support.
Sure. And great analogous reference there as well, because you're right. I mean, we do live in those times now. I almost said for better or worse, but we know it's for worse. It's been, I'll be honest with you, Tom, this has been one of the weirdest. I've seen a lot. I've talked about it a lot here on the radio that's played out here in Utah. This has been one of the weirdest sequence of events from the way the story broke, and then, the story today even that just seems almost. I read the story and thought, you've got to be kidding me. Story of an Operation Underground Railroad operative who also has served on some pretty high-profile political campaign committees, basically molesting allegedly underage girls while on OUR missions. And I thought, no. This cannot get worse, and it just does. And you're right, though, it may not end up mattering because there does appear to be a bit of a cult-like status around Tim Ballard himself. I don't know. It's do you, Tom, is there any way, in your opinion, for a story like this to have played out differently, though? It in and of itself, it is a wild story, right?
Yeah, I think one of the remarkable aspects about this so far is the delay in all this information coming out. So the allegations against Paul Hutchinson aren't from last month. They're old. And so there were a lot of people that knew about that and kept their mouths shut. And that's an atrocity in and of itself, too. And the same thing with Tim Ballard. he left, and it was amazing how unclear those circumstances were for how long it went on.
Sure.
And that's shameful. That's remarkable in a bad way, and really unfortunate. And that, I think also begs the question of whether any of this is a mortal wound to Tim Ballard as a public figure. Probably not. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe not.
It does suggest at least the possibility that it won't be, because I did see, I won't dig into it because it might upset people. It upset me a little bit, but there was a very innocent tweet put out on the church's official Twitter account, and some of the responses to that, because of just the statement, was all that was out at this point. It shocked me, actually, that I'm surprised when people can put politics over faith. And I know it happens. I know there are always people like that, but it will always shock me if a person professes to have a faith. And so, different times, to say the least. But what do you do?
It is a different time. And last night, this was surreal. Glenn Beck put out a series of tweets criticizing the church and defending Tim Ballard. And people were also attacking Elder Ballard, President Ballard, on Twitter last night against his own Twitter feed. They were adding at President Ballard, members of the church, which is unbelievable because of all the apostles, President Ballard is the most grandfatherly and kind, and I know a lot of people listening have met him in person because he's in Logan quite often.
Sure.
And I have on a couple of occasions. And of all the people on the earth to address your vitriol to, he's the last.
Sure.
The last deserving, and the level of disrespect to him in defense of Tim Ballard is something that I would have never conceived as possible just 4 or 5 or 10 years ago.
Sure.
It's hard to understand how we got to this place.
Especially when, I think the nature of their friendship was so obvious, on a public level, that President Ballard's friendship with Tim Ballard was about his belief, as all of us at one point felt, that what Operation Underground Rescue was doing was important and deserved to be promoted. And to exploit that, to abuse that. I tell you, my statement wouldn't have been nearly as nice as what was put out by the church last week. But it's heartbreaking. That's the word I'm searching for here, Tom. The whole thing, in a way, is heartbreaking. It
is, and it's surreal. It's just, to think Glenn Beck would put out tweets criticizing the church, that members of the church would be attacking President Ballard like that. It's I don't even understand it. I can't wrap my head around why this is happening like it is.
It's definitely been weird to watch. I did notice Beck did delete the first tweet in that 12 tweet thread that he posted yesterday. Quickly too, but it was screenshot. It's still being shopped around. I saw it just this morning from some people. We'll see where it all goes. The tragic story, again, for listeners, links on the Facebook page to every story that's been referenced here throughout the hour. And Tom, always a pleasure to hear your voice. Come visit. Come join us in the studio one day. Make some trouble.
I will. We'll make that happen.
Absolutely. Anytime. And call again soon.
Take care.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Always good to hear Tom's voice sincerely. And I know Tom, great to talk to you about this because he follows these stories in Utah and the politics and the social avenues in Utah as well, the cultural avenues here in Utah that influence even the most mundane news story, let alone a bombshell like the series of bombshells like these stories have been. One more caller on the line here before the break, and this is my fault. I took the call while Bill was doing the news, and I've forgotten the caller's name. Bill, you didn't get a chance to ask them their name? Are you there? And I'm sorry I forgot your name.
I don't know. Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you. Yeah, sorry. Your name again?
He actually did take my name. It's Kerry.
That's right. No, it was me, Kerry. Bill was doing the news. I took your name, and then I forgot it. So thank you. Kerry, go ahead.
No problem. I mean, it definitely is tragic and heartbreaking. I mean, OUR has definitely raised the awareness, sound of freedom, regardless of the factual versus the fictitious, if you will, or embellished parts of the, have raised awareness. I think that, trafficking has become a thing, if that's a fair way to put it, over the last decade or so, in a way that has never really been addressed before. And
without a doubt,
I believe at this point in time there is more slavery. And actually, I take a little bit of an issue with the word trafficking because it's kind of sugarcoating slavery.
That's a good point.
That's what it really is.
I've heard that point made before, and I think you're right, Carrie. Trafficking does sound a bit softer than what we're actually talking about, right? Because we hear drug trafficking, and when we hear drug trafficking, people think, oh, you shove something illegal in a trunk and drive from Mexico to Montana. We're talking about something far worse. So I think that's a great point to make.
Well, and also just to address the phrase trafficking, it implies movement or transport from one place to another, and I think there's a lot who would think, well, we're bringing them in from out of the country and so forth, which really discounts all of the trafficking or slavery that is taking place in our own backyard, which it is. It's virtually prevalent in all 50 states and virtually every country in the world.
Yeah, there was a story from southern Utah just 2 years ago. A horrible story. So, yeah, it is local, unfortunately.
And actually, from most of the stuff that hits the news is coming from cases that have been apprehended and or prosecuted, which doesn't address. I mean, it's kind of a scratching the surface or the tip of the iceberg, you might say, of what really is going on out there. I mean, if you talk to the Attorney General's office, their prosecutions, number one, are very difficult, and number two, they're somewhat infrequent compared to the nature of the problem.
Sure.
As far as OUR is concerned, OUR has been very effective in marketing and fundraising. There's just no two ways about it. They really know how to get out there and have been very successful in doing that. But if I could address one aspect of trafficking that maybe most people don't pay much attention to, and that is we would like to think that if somebody's enslaved or trafficked, as they use the word, that, we ride up on a white horse and throw them on the back and ride off into the sunset, and everything is hunky-dory.
Sure.
And in reality, that is the beginning of the problem, because the aftercare is equally, if not more important, than the rescue.
Sure. The recovery period, basically, right?
Well, yeah, when you say... I mean, recovery period is a little bit naive as well, because recovery isn't a foregone conclusion. It really takes some significant aftercare. I mean, research shows that to address and take care of psychological issues that would occur in a person, and I mean, basically, what's taking place in trafficking, the women, the girls who are involved in this are seeing the worst the world has to offer.
Sure. Their identity erased. They become basically a product of an industry, and even if they're extracted from that, as you've said, Carrie, they are carrying that experience with them. I heard one person refer to it, Carrie, as almost like deprogramming. When someone was rescued from slavery, they almost had to have what slavery had taught them to think about themselves deprogrammed, like you would someone who had been a member of a cult. And that struck me. That shocked me to hear it described that way. And then I thought, no, that actually makes sense. This would be such a traumatic experience that rebuilding would be necessary. Sure.
Well, and it's a very complicated puzzle. I mean, if you look at the aftercare side of things, you've got, the psychological issues. You've got the issues as far as how they're controlling them, whether it's drug addiction, hunger, and a lot of times people will think that, well, they're enslaved, they must be in chains, and they aren't in chains, so they're not enslaved. But psychological control oftentimes is more substantial than physical control. And so there are just so many issues in the aftercare. And as far as OUR is concerned, one of the questions or concerns that I have had for years is they kind of go in with the sting operation and the Rambo type approach, and they're successful in getting girls out. But their aftercare,
then what, right?
A serious question, because the typical model, and this is coming directly from people in their aftercare program, is to, outside of the country, to have an orphanage, for example, wind up. And I just don't see how that kind of a situation can be addressed on a superficial, put them in the orphanage type of basis, because of all of the issues that they have to address. And if they aren't addressed...
Casey, unfortunately, we're going to have to cut things short there, but that is well said, because what you're describing basically is, great. As you said, you rode in on a horse and rescued them like a knight in shining armor, but then you just dumped them in another bad situation. Did you really solve the problem? And that's one of the criticisms I know many people have had of organizations like Operation Underground Railroad over the years. Great place to end things. Casey, sorry to cut things short. We're up against the clock. Appreciate the call. Appreciate Tom's call before that. And all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. We have some super exciting news. We're thrilled to announce our brand new store in Tooele. We have been hoping to expand to Tooele for years and finally found the perfect spot. In the heart of the city, Alpine is located just north of Walmart off Main Street. This store will be just like our others. We offer massive selection of home medical supplies. Do you need a CPAP